U.S.'s own failure on the war on drugs, that you would have learned by now that as long as there is supply, as long as there is a demand, there will always be somebody there to make the supply. All you're doing is you're turning the gangs and the guns and the criminals into exactly what you've been trying to portray. You know, you're going to turn this whole thing, and you're putting us medical users in the crossfire of those wars. This is a political war between whatever you feel you can squash out these grow ops. There's something called LED lighting. There's gas generators. Okay, there's different ways people get around these approaches. The sentences are going to pack in the mom and pop dealers, which is going to directly affect the supply lines for the end medical user. And the end medical user, such as myself and my partner, shouldn't have to face such discriminatory bills. People might say, yes, you have a federal license and you're fine for that. You know, yeah, that's true, we're fine for that, but if we have a crop failure, I may not be able to go to my Compassion Club anymore, because they may no longer be able to operate after this bill. We'll have to see. We don't know what this bill actually means. All I know is the language looks dangerous, okay, and effectively reads dangerous. We'll have to see what the final language is when it's passed, and we will bring an update on the final passing, which is scheduled. I still have more to certainly go through with this. Their opening submissions were what really mattered. I mean, quite literally, this is a 90-something page document of debates around it. We do have a lot of people that are fighting off the mandatory minimums. They're trying to stay it off. They're on our side. They are fighting, and we thank them very much for that. But just so that we're clear, I'm not going to keep going on anymore. One thing that I've also noticed within this bill is that it's also broken down, of course, as the CDSA always has been, is by plant count. It's something that I didn't really touch on. So before I jump the gun, it also looks like the language, as the debate continued and the amendments had continued, that actually they reduced it back to what Bill C-26 was proposing, which was 6 months. So it says here that for the offense of marijuana production, the bill as amended proposes mandatory minimum penalties based on the number of plants involved. The production of 5 to 200 plants. If the plants are cultivated for the purpose of trafficking, the penalty would be 6 months. The minimum number of plants was raised to 5 plants from 1 plant as a result of an amendment that was proposed and vigorously debated by the committee. For the production of 201 to 500 plants, the minimum mandatory sentence would be 1 year. For the production of more than 500 plants, it would be more than 2 years. And finally, for the production of cannabis resin for the purpose of trafficking, it would be a minimum jail sentence of 1 year. So a lot of the information that I gave you was in earlier readings. Again, as you can see, the amendments in the debates caused the amendments to have taken place here. But that's quite scary. So actually 6 months for your cannabis, but for your cannabis cookie, you're going to face a year. Again, for club owners, we need look at these situations from a standpoint of cannabis resin and whether that might be a point of attack. And I know that it has been a focal point for years. It goes on to say here that the minimum sentence for the production of a Schedule II drugs would be increased by 50%. Where any of the aggravating factors relating to health and safety that I just described are present. The maximum penalty for producing marijuana would be doubled from 7 to 14 years imprisonment. Let's keep in mind, people, in Canada, maximum imprisonment, life imprisonment, is 20 years. 20. So you're looking at almost life. You might as well go out and cap someone in the head. You know, you go out and cap someone, you're looking at 20 years. You go grow 40 cannabis plants and you're looking at the same. You know, you're looking at 20 years. You go grow some cannabis plants and you're looking at the same. Our country's moving backwards and we're moving towards a police state, and it's all messed up. However, the Justice Department remains to be on our side as it appears. And remember, this goes by plant count, so clearly they're targeting organized crime, which is fine. That's all fine and dandy, whatever they choose to do. the problem that I have with this whole thing is that it comes down to the right to autonomy. There would be no organized crime. There would be none of this. There would be no need for this bill to be debated and for this bill to later be squashed and repealed. I'll call it now and I'll show it later in the future if I'm still alive to do it. This bill will be repealed. We do not have the funds. There's an economic downturn. We cannot build the jails, we cannot build the recovery houses or hire the staff because we do not have the funds. And if we want to borrow the money from China, well, let's just do it. We can sell out the rest of the country. You know, what the hell? We already just sold out GM to the friggin' feds. Let's open our eyes, people. It's a little bit scary. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this bill reads ugly. It's always kind of been like this. It's a mandatory factor. You got to remember, when mandatory minimums come in, mitigating factors go out. You can walk in there with both legs blowing off, both arms blowing off, both your ears you can't hear, and 2 eyes you can't see. The judge still will sentence you to 1 year if you can prove how somehow you managed to still cultivate. Okay? It don't matter. That's the problem with mandatory sentences. They can't take a pre-sentence report into consideration. Okay? Mandatory is just that, mandatory. It's scary. Again, I haven't went through all the different things. I mean, they've got different sentences for GHB and various other drugs as well. However, the bill is primarily debated and primarily focused on cannabis and cannabis resin, us bad cannabis growers. And once again, and I'm going to again close this out and try and do as best I can, let's start looking at all indoor cultivation, if you're going to look at it at all, and stop discriminating against people like myself and my partner for our choice in medication and our federal license that grants us the right to damn well do so. This is Jason Wilcox signing out, and we'll see you when the final legislation of Bill C15 is read. This is Bill C15. I just wanted to be clear that this isn't just about whether you can use personally. This is about the fact that you can face 1 year mandatorily, okay, for producing or trafficking. And remember, trafficking constitutes handing something to somebody else. Okay, so keep it in mind, please. This is no light bill. This is one of the most heaviest bills to be seen in Canada against a harmless drug like cannabis, I believe personally, in history, aside from the prohibition of the plant itself. We'll see you in the next time we talk about Bill C-15. It's Jason Wilcox signing out.